Hey, what's up,
Hey,
guys?
Sticks here.
Raytune.
Welcome to the Couch Classics.
Boom.
We're going to talk about something a little exciting today. Not that we don't talk about exciting stuff every episode, but we personally are super geeked out about this. Very recent as far as most of the stuff we do. This is only a couple years old. I think it came out in 2012. Ernest Kline, the man, the myth, the legend. Dude wrote a pretty awesome screenplay for a movie here a few years back. Quite a few years back, actually. I think it might have been like 03, 04. Anyway, fanboys. Totally about Star Wars and the geeks that love it. Super awesome movie. Check it out. We'll probably do a review of that at some point here in the near future because it's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the funniest movies ever written, period.
Rush is variety.
Rush is variety. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. So, spoiler alert, definitely doing a full in-depth geek out session on this book. So if you haven't read it and you don't want the plot and key points ruined, we're not going to destroy the end of it or anything. We'll try not to give away everything in this, but we are going to tear it apart because we really love it. We've read it a couple of dozen times. Book is Ready Player One. Set to be a movie here. I think it's supposed to come out next year. I don't know who's acting in it. Spielberg is directing it. Dude came out of retirement for this, so that's got to say something about the story. It's pretty epic. Anyway, if you're closer to our age and enjoy the 70s, 80s, 90s culture, pop culture, movies, music, video games, etc., then you will absolutely love this book. It's chock full of references to tons of movies, books, games, music throughout. And it's all intertwined in this intricate, detailed, masterful web of awesome. And then laid out in a beautiful story to boot.
That's the best way to describe it. So, if you haven't heard of Ready Player One, you're welcome. But Sticks here is going to read the back cover. So, before we get too in-depth, we're going to read the back cover.
Set the stage.
And then, after that point, it's spoilers. So, we're just warning you now.
If you want to stop after I finish this intro, that's fine.
Go read it. If you go buy it now, you can be back before lunchtime, finish with the book. You'll be just reading it and reading it and reading it.
I read this book and I was like, hey, I'll check this out. I got it as a Christmas present. Started reading it. Blew my mind. Told my brother about it. I was like, listen, you got to get this book and read it. He starts reading it. I finished it. Immediately went back to the beginning and started reading again. This is the only book that I've ever read back to back, quick fire, like within just a couple days. Anyway, It's awesome. I've talked to a lot of people about it. People who've read it said it's awesome. People who don't like to read books read this because it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Right.
Anyway,
let's hear it.
I'm going to read the back cover because it's beautiful. In the year 2044, reality is an ugly place. The only time teenager Wade Watts really feels alive is when he's jacked into the virtual utopia known as the Oasis. Wade's devoted his entire life to studying the puzzles hidden within the world's digital confines. Puzzles that are based on their creator's obsession with the pop culture of decades past and that promise massive power and fortune to whoever can unlock them. But when Wade stumbles upon the first clue, he finds himself beset by players willing to kill to take this ultimate prize. The race is on, and if Wade's going to survive, he'll have to win and confront the real world he's always been so desperate to escape.
Yeah.
Makes me want to read it again right now.
I just finished it again for my fourth time.
Right, I've been through it cover to cover 4 times. And then back and forth all over the place with the references. Anyway, so if you want to stop right now and go read it, we understand.
Yeah.
Come back, check it out later. We have a lot to say about it, so we'll get into that.
Yeah. From here on out, we can't talk about the book without spoiling bits of it. So
Spoilers. But
consider
even if you
yourself
watch this entire thing
informed.
after we've spoiled it, you're still gonna just absolutely in love with the book.
Mm-hmm.
There are incredibly few people that would read this and be like, "Oh, this is no good." But those people don't like anything anyway,
Yeah.
so who cares?
Right.
Geeks love stuff. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We get incredibly passionate about the things that we love, and we're not afraid to tell everyone about it. We don't sit around and say, "Oh, that sucked." That's for emos and goths, and I don't even know the terminology. People that don't like stuff.
Yeah. People that think everything sucks.
Critics. Be a critic. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's really, in fact, it's super easy to say that you don't like something.
Yeah.
Anybody can say that. But to create something and then go and say, "Oh, maybe that wasn't as good as what I did," or, "I've seen better, I've done better," that makes more sense. Just saying, "Oh, that sucks," and not being able to do anything at all, ever. Like, if you've never created anything at all, you've got no room to talk. I'm sorry. But that's beside the point.
All right. So, Wade Watts. Essentially, he lives in what is it? Would it say 2044?
Said 2044, yeah.
Okay.
So he's in the United States. He's in Oklahoma or something like that. What has become of
Oklahoma,
the suburbs of the lowest of the low-end rental housing. He's living in the projects and anything else you want to call it. He's in the slummiest of slums.
Yeah, it's the stacks.
It's not apocalypse or post-apocalypse, but it's like on the verge of apocalypse, like pre-apocalypse, right before like the bombs are falling from the sky, apocalypse era.
Right.
Like, things are about to get really, really bad.
Yeah. So there's like basically the massive energy crisis. So people aren't able to live in this world without the energy because everyone's lives at this point are based out of the Oasis. People work in the Oasis. They live in connection to the Oasis, and everyone needs power and electricity pretty much.
We got to stop for a second, though. Okay, so everyone's living in the slums, basically, except for a few select people that actually have work and can survive and live in the big cities. Everything else is either unhospitable because of, he talked about war and famine and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know exactly the details.
He didn't really talk about it because it didn't matter that much.
Wasn't relevant to the story. Basic idea is things are bad.
Yeah.
But this dude comes along and creates virtual reality, right? And it's in such a manner that it's accessible to everybody. So he's created this virtual reality. The entire world that's already starting to crumble grasps onto it, and then things get worse because people are so engrossed in virtual reality that they're not paying attention to
they don't really care about real reality. reality.
So setting the stage, this is why they need energy. It's not for anything else. They're not traveling hardly at all. They basically all just kind of sit around at home. They work in this virtual world. They socialize. They have fun. They play. They learn everything. Like, everything from school to business and everything else is all done in this virtual world called the Oasis.
Right.
And he's got a great big giant name for it, but I don't feel like reading it right now.
No, it doesn't matter.
But it's cool.
So my point is, like, there's the city hubs that basically produce the limited power and internet supply, and everyone from surrounding is kind of located in these blobs, and all the slums around the major cities are called the stacks. And basically, they're in such desperate need for space in proximity to these cities that instead of having spread out trailer park kind of things, they just basically built scaffolding and stacked up trailer on top of trailer on top of trailer, like a dozen or two high. And so the main character, Wade Watts, he lives at the top of one of these stacks in the slums. Yeah,
things are bad.
Yeah,
things are really, really bad.
Real bad.
Basically, what we're saying. And there's like 4 or 5 families living in a little tiny trailer house. Like, people don't understand what personal space is anymore. Here in America, we got like bubbles, and they're like 30, 40 feet around each individual. And we don't like anyone inside the bubble, and we got our own rooms and several rooms inside of a house, and it's all mine. They don't have that.
No.
Doesn't exist. They're putting entire families in one single room, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we could put some more people in here because there's enough space on the ground."
Yeah.
Stacking people up.
Yeah. And so Wade, he's a teenager. He's living with his aunt and her boyfriend in her trailer, and she basically hates him.
His parents died.
Yeah, his parents died. She keeps him around because she gets government subsidies for like food vouchers, basically just for having a body in the house, and that's the only reason she keeps him.
He basically grew up in the Oasis, learned everything he knows from it,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just he's a super loner outside the real world, hangs out by himself, has to take care of himself.
Yeah. And because
anyway, that's just kind of the setting.
Yeah. Right. And the nature
that's
of
not
the
even
Oasis.
The story
right. We're trying to set the scene, the stage. The nature of the Oasis is learning in Oasis means like interactively, participating in Sesame Street and things like that, storybooks that you can actually act out and be involved in. It's not like I'm sitting in a digital library, which do exist in the Oasis,
no.
But
like learning history, say. You're not learning history, you're in history.
Right.
It's full 3D realism all around you. You're experiencing it, you're seeing it, you're hearing all the dialogue. Yeah. You want to learn about astronomy, you're out in the solar system cruising around.
Yeah.
So learning has taken a step in a positive direction.
Right.
And this is all offered through the government for free, or offered through the company that owns the Oasis for free, all this learning software. Mm-hmm. And then the government distributes your hardware, like your headset. You need a headset and some gloves, and then
that's the only stuff you really have to pay for. Now Wade,
but the government distributes this if you're in school, so that's how he's got his stuff. Even though he's dirt poor, he still is connected to the Oasis because he could go to school that way.
And Wade is a character. He's got a really technological mind. He's able to build up old computers. A lot of this is stemmed from basically the premise of the story, but he's really good at fixing things and using computers and all that kind of stuff like that. And so he uses that to make money, and he's technologically sound. But essentially what happened is all the kids that qualified were able to attend high school, not in the real world, but in the Oasis. And so the story with him in school is basically it's on a planet within the Oasis. So we'll have to explain, exactly how the Oasis is set up. It's so exciting.
So the Oasis is set up as a universe in a digital world, basically. So instead of having, say, World of Warcraft, you have worlds of absolutely everything that mankind has ever amassed, period. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's full sandbox mode, so users can get on and create their own stuff. So, like, if you got the money, if you got the ducats, you can create your own planet and put in whatever you want. So they have recreations of everything that you could imagine. Every MMO that you've ever played, they got a recreation of it in the simulation as a full 3D world, like literally a planet that you can fly a spaceship to or teleport to and hang out.
Mm-hmm. And think of it, if you play any sort of games like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars or anything like that. I mean, it's MMORPG style universe, and there are, non-PvP worlds or player versus player. So you can go there if you don't want to actually really play the game. There's worlds set up where you can go shopping, you can go to work, you can go live out your normal life. Yeah, SimCity kind of things.
Go play Sims instead.
Without having to worry about your character, your avatar being killed. And then you can go to the World of Warcraft universe, basically, the Star Wars, Star Trek, any of that, it's all out there. And you basically, as your character in the Oasis, you can go to these places, do quests, level up, and that's right. It's a game that's
so like
also
the Oasis
life.
Is a game. Basically, the Oasis is a giant MMO that contains infinite number of MMOs and different things within it. So, like, however you like to play games, you can do that in the Oasis and slowly level up or whatever. Like, he didn't really talk about this, but there's something that I was thinking about. Like, as a businessman, say you're in the Oasis doing your business stuff. I wonder if it didn't work out like, say, SimCity, where you're setting up cities and you're a city planner or whatever, and you do that, and you might gain experience that way. I was thinking, maybe
Yeah.
if instead of going out and adventuring and doing the swords and sorcery and gunfighting and stuff, you just wanted to do your business thing. I wonder if your avatar didn't level up with you as you
As you're
progress through
doing
the years
that,
as a
I
businessman.
imagine that it would.
Could have. I
Yeah.
don't know. It wasn't addressed, so that's kind of just a
Yeah.
thought. But
So
it
why?
could possibly be.
Why is everyone obsessed with the Oasis? We've kind of talked about briefly what the Oasis is. Why is everyone obsessed with the Oasis?
Partly because real world sucks.
Right.
So they've gotten away from the real world
Mm-hmm.
and they hang out in the Oasis. Kind of similar to the Gamer movie where everybody's kind of like gotten away from the real world and they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of exist as these entities within. Loosely, it's hard to go through any kind of sci-fi or anything without drawing references from everything else. Also, that's just what we do.
Right.
We explain things by referencing other
Yeah.
things. It's a
Exactly.
human thing. And then for me and my brother, it's referencing things because we've watched the movies before or played the games or read the books,
Yeah.
So we draw a lot of those references. But I guess that was the driving force prior to the main plot of the book,
Right.
is everyone was just kind of escaping how bad real life was.
Yeah.
So, there's no jobs or anything, so people had to find work, and they found a lot of work through the Oasis. There
Yeah.
were tech support
Companies.
jobs and companies that completely dissolved their physical presence and
Mm-hmm.
exist completely online in the Oasis.
Yeah. There's companies that sell products for your character in the Oasis. And so basically they have it, I mean, since everything's just ones and zeros when it comes down to the Oasis, they're supplying products for what is the current world's currency, which is in-game currency, is actual world currency. It
The entire
demands,
planet has shifted over.
market, right. Well, they're having complete profit. So they run complete, there's a whole world that's covered with stores or whatever, and you want to go buy, an outfit or a sword or whatever you want for your character. There's these companies that, I mean, their
Runs
business
on
is
in-game
selling that
purchases,
stuff on in-game purchases with
but they have
in-game
to rent real
currency.
estate within the game in order to do
Right.
that.
So it's just this whole economy within the game that's developed into Earth's economy. And so, I mean, there's people that work in these stores. There's people, like you said, that work IT for real world people that are having IT problems with their Oasis
Right.
connections and things like that. So a lot of, and there's, of course, the internet, companies that, just like in the real world that are
They control
controlling everything.
everything.
So it seems like pretty much most of the world is connected to the Oasis in some way, at the point that the story's happening. So,
Right.
so that's one part. Everyone's obsessed with the Oasis because of those reasons. But the premise of the book is the creator of the Oasis. He he started the Oasis. He started actually making games when he was a kid, in high school, and on his old school computer he starts programming games. After playing, RPGs like, paper RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, he thinks,
Tabletop
yeah,
games.
tabletop stuff. He wants to, start making games like this. So he makes a game just kind of as a side project, and it ends up being really successful. And his buddy who he plays Dungeons and Dragons with, he's really good at marketing and sales and stuff like that. And so together they decide, okay, we can market this game and sell it, and it's really successful. And together the two of them, until the end of the game creator's life, they're making games, and it just keeps,
Developing software
yeah,
and whatnot for the Oasis.
it keeps
Eventually, it
evolving.
builds into
Yeah,
creating the Oasis together.
he develops games throughout time, and eventually his final project is the Oasis. And just before he dies, the story opens up where, surprise, surprise, the creator of the Oasis has died, and everyone, it's like, oh yeah, he's a rich guy, he's died, who's he gonna leave his money to? Well,
He
what he
has no
does,
living relatives
yeah,
at all.
in amazing, awesome game fashion, he says, you know, my favorite game is Adventure for Atari 2600. And the best part about it is there was an Easter egg built within the game by the game's programmer. Uh, Basically, for Atari 2600, programmers weren't given any credit for the game. So the guy who,
At all.
yeah, so the guy who programmed the game, he hid an Easter egg within the game, and you can find where he put a separate screen that says created by Warren Robinette, or whatever, and the game is printed and shipped all around the world and sold with this Easter egg in it that Atari never knew about until kids that found this Easter egg started calling in and saying, "Hey, cool, we found this
A month or two
cool thing."
later,
Yeah,
they start picking up. Now this is real life.
yeah, this isn't the real world. The
This
game
is actual
Adventure
history.
has an Easter egg in it, and that was essentially is the first Easter egg, and this always inspired the creator of the Oasis, and so he's, big surprise. This is what my inspiration was. I was really dug that there was this Easter egg in this game. Well, I've created an Easter egg in the Oasis, and whoever can solve the puzzle will win.
Find the egg.
Yeah, find the egg. They will
Make
win.
it to the end. You get everything.
Yeah, you win my fortune, my controlling stock in the Oasis company, which is worth billions and billions and billions of dollars.
My
Complete
kingdom
control
is yours.
over, yeah, you get everything. The big shebang. You get everything. You control, and because the Oasis is the leading part of the world's economy and everything, and basically you become
King of the
most
world,
powerful
baby.
person on the planet if you can solve this Easter egg. And he gives a hint, that he's interested, everyone knows that he's interested in pop culture from the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, when he was growing up and developing games, primarily the 80s. It's the stuff that he loves, and having a knowledge of that will probably help you. And he leaves, basically a small hint like that and says,
And then
good luck.
Also left. He said, good luck. This is it. People find his webpage, and he's got a download of his personal journals.
Right.
So everything that he's ever written about all of the stuff that he loves is laid out in thousands of pages of text where he's like, I like this or I like that. So you have all these little hints spread out over an enormous tome of knowledge of this guy's personal journals through his life.
Right. And so
this is what inspires all these people to start looking, because obviously everyone wants to be, king of the world.
Right. And so his in-game, the creator's in-game avatar is called Anorak. He's like a super powerful wizard mage kind of guy, and he owns everything, controls everything. And so this document is eventually called Anorak's Almanac, and it contains the life and times and interests of the creator. And from that point on, and this message is sent to every Oasis user and everyone who's living in poverty in the real world and having a horrible, miserable life, says, "Oh, we can have
a ray of hope."
Yeah, we have the potential to get out of all of our problems. We got to solve this Easter egg. We got to win this. And so, from that point on,
forward 5 years.
Yeah.
This is when the story begins. It opens with Wade Watts. This is 5 years after the Grand Poobah's death.
Right.
And he started this Easter egg hunt, and no one's even found the first clue yet.
Yeah, after 5 years.
He said in his opening video, hey, we've got, I got this laid out. There's 3 gates that you have to open. You got to find the keys and open these gates, and then you'll find the egg at the end, and you win.
Yeah.
So everyone's looking for the first key. And 5 years in, nobody's found it. But in the intervening 5 years, because everyone's so obsessed with this 70s, 80s, 90s pop culture stuff, it's brought back this huge resurgent and interest into all these things. Yeah, especially, Ernie Kline was real heavy on the 80s
Mm-hmm.
or pop culture references and stuff. So real heavy on the 80s movies and games and stuff like that.
So people are playing the games, people are watching the movies, they're obsessing over the stuff, they're obsessing over the music, people
Reading
are
the
dressing
comics,
like from the 80s.
reading the books.
I mean, it's like 80s 2.0 in 2044. And
Everything's come back
yeah,
full force.
and so everyone's obsessed with it. And, a huge part of the book is, he loved that stuff, and a knowledge of all this stuff, it basically made it to where everyone else really liked the stuff that he liked, and that's what he wanted. He knew how precious and awesome, his experiences were when he was growing up with all these different cultural icons, and what he wanted for everyone else is to enjoy and love those things that he loved.
Yeah, just to share in that pleasure.
And so that was a pleasant side effect for the Easter egg.
But that was kind of his main goal anyway.
I mean, he's got to turn power over to someone worthy, but he wants everyone else to enjoy what he enjoyed, and that's one of the main messages you get out of this book is there's so many awesome things out there, and just think of, from this point on, if you haven't read the book, think of all the references as an invitation to research and enjoy these things, because all the references are real life references that you can look into and enjoy.
That's why he authored this book, is he didn't put these references in to look down at people or whatever. Mm-hmm. He did it because he really loved this stuff and he didn't want this stuff to be forgotten.
Right.
And that's a huge inspiration for our channel in the first place. We get to think back and remember and reminisce on all these things that we enjoyed when we were growing up and go back and look at them again, and we still love them.
Yeah.
And we just want other people to check them out.
We want you guys to see our videos and say, that's awesome, I'm going to go check it out. And then you can tell other people, hey, this is really cool, this obscure thing that I didn't have when I was growing up, I've discovered now. That doesn't make you a loser because you discovered it now in 2017 almost.
Exactly. It's still awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So get over it, It's cool. Go check it out. And then tell somebody else so they can check it out,
Or don't. You might not like it.
Who cares?
That's okay.
If you don't like it, you don't, it's not religion, If you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you do like it, it's the way it is.
It is religion, but we're going to let it slide this time.
Yeah. My goal, with my son, I'm skewing his perspective of what video game reality is, and he's playing 2600. He's playing Atari 2600. He doesn't know that any other video games exist, and so his mind, Asteroids is the coolest thing.
Asteroids is really hard. I remember years and years ago we had it on the computer, so I don't know the authenticity of the originality of the ROM or whatever. We had it on computer. We had that Arcade Classics disc for Windows, and I had played Asteroids enough to reset the score. When it kicked over to 1,000,000, it reset. And you guys were like, oh, yeah, whatever, because I had a high score, I was like, no, check it out. I got the high score, and I had the highest score on the computer, and it was 25,000 points or something. And your guys' highest scores were in the 100,000s or something. And I was like, see?
Yeah,
it rolled over. It rolled over after 1,000,000. And now I'm trying to play it again, and it's like, man, I suck at this game.
Yeah.
I got to get my chops back up.
Maybe it was because it was 15 or 20 years ago, probably 20 years ago when I last played that version on our computer. It was we had a 95 or something like that.
Well, that was the arcade version. That was the arcade port.
Yeah, that seemed a lot harder than the one that's the 2600 version.
Port, there's just a couple of patterns to it, so you can actually get set on the pattern.
Yeah.
I was doing really good. The other day I played it, I died a couple times and then got into groove on it, and it's simplistic. I could sit there. I played until I was bored of playing.
Exactly. I did the same thing. You just shoot everything on this side, and they're slowly drifting towards you this direction. It's oh, shoot them all on this side.
Just limited.
New level. Yeah.
The arcade version is much better.
I remember just complete chaos, but I was I was a lot younger then. But